first night I was in Mexico, I was alone. My second trip, like solo traveling, I immediately had like I crashed a birthday party with an
Wow.
American guy, and everyone loved us. We were just dancing, eating in the birthday party. We didn't pay a cent. They were just like, "Come join us on our table." My first night in Mexico City. My mom keeps telling me this story. I was like 3 years old. So we traveled to New York for the first time. It was around November, so it was very cold. And when I got stepped out of the airport, you have a little smoke going out of your mouth because it's cold.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom, why is everyone smoking here? I was crossing from Panama to Costa Rica by bus, and there was a protest, and we were given the choice, like, do you want to go back or you want to go through it? With my 50 liters backpack, I went on it, and I'm like, let's walk. So we had to walk through the whole like bridge, cross the protest, and we were like, yeah, I'm with you, until we got to like the border of Costa Rica. Surprisingly, Nicaragua was it's very not visited. I don't know how I ended
Yeah.
up there. I crossed the country. I crossed by foot actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, Ada, at long last. It's so hard to catch you.
It is indeed.
You've been moving around for the past, I think we've been talking for nearly a month, right?
Yeah, I've been all around Spain now.
Yeah. So how was it?
It's been pretty nice. I escaped Valencia one day before what happened.
Right.
I had no clue, so I feel very lucky that I actually got away.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. So we're going to talk about your travel experience, how you feel about many things, what you've learned from it. And, the very first question I classically ask is, what got you into traveling?
Right. I tried thinking about this, not to make it very complicated, but
Right.
I come from Dominican Republic, so the traveling experience there means like you need to have money. Mostly people just go to New York and that's about it. So I started in 2022. 2020, I was dating someone who was traveling for full 2 years. Like he quit his job, he went to Asia, 2 years traveling, and since pandemic, we were just talking for hours and hours. So he showed me his experience about hostels, people he met, experiences, and I was like, what is this world? Is it actually real? Can you quit your job? I'm like, okay. A year and a half later, I started like a long distance relationship, not with this guy, obviously. And I went to Arizona by myself, 13 hours flight. I had to do like 3 layovers. And I spent a lot of time by myself because we were just like spending time together. He was working, I was working, and that was about it. And one day I was like, oh, I can go alone to eat. I can make friends. I actually like this. So I don't know if you know the app Hopper.
No.
It's to buy flights and stuff. Back then it was pretty good. I got a notification like buy a flight to Guatemala for $20. I'm like, you know what? I don't know what got me that day because that's first time traveling alone in my life. I'm like, okay, let's do it. I don't know if I can say that.
It's okay.
So I posted it on Instagram because how do I fly from the US to Guatemala for $20? That's too good. And there's a friend from school. We haven't seen each other for 8 years. And she told me, if you go to Colombia, I go with you. You know what? I don't care losing $20. Let's go to Colombia.
Right.
We booked the trip that same day and we were leaving in 3 weeks. So I got to Colombia, just 5 days with her. Then she left me in Medellin alone, no plans. I was booking the hostel day by day.
Wow.
And I was like, so what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go back home? I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
I met a group of 2 Germans, 2 people from Holland, and a French girl, and they were like, we got along pretty well. So I stayed with them for like 4 days, and they were like, oh, we're all going to Santa Marta. You should go there. You can do scuba diving for very cheap prices. And I'm like, okay. I followed them. I was working remotely like that by that
Wow.
time. They were not. They were just backpacking. For me, that concept is impossible. Like,
Yeah.
coming from
And it
Latin
kept going
America.
on and on. It never ended, actually.
Yeah, it went on for 6 months actually. That unplanned trip. My parents were like, you're never gonna get to this house. You're out of it. And they stopped talking to me for like a
All right.
month. And I'm like,
Okay. So that happened. Then you took a break from traveling. Then you resumed it.
yeah, the break was unplanned. So I went back on the month number 6 for my birthday, but I actually sprained my ankle. So I needed a cast for like a month and a half. As soon as I was out of the cast, a week later, out to
Okay.
Mexico.
Well, that's actually awesome. So I guess you were able to meet a lot of people there. And what is one thing that you've certainly enjoyed the most about Colombia? This is actually in my top 5 countries to visit in South America.
And it definitely, Colombia is one of my favorite countries because it just feels like home. I went to Medellin, Bogota, and all the place Santa Marta, and I think the most special about it is the people. Like it is so easy to feel welcomed. Even I speak Spanish; it's a little bit easier. But a lot of these people who didn't, they would just feel like all this love. All people
Yeah.
would get you into their houses. They would buy you drinks. They don't have money, but they would buy you drinks. They just want you to feel good in their country.
A little bit like Spanish people, or maybe
Um,
more.
Way more. I haven't felt that in Spain personally,
Mm.
but
I mean, to some extent, I would say this is still Europe. So at the end of the day, the openness has some forms of limits here. But I think compared to other European countries, they are probably warmer, I would
Yeah.
say, and more welcoming compared to, I don't want to mention
Yeah.
any place, but I guess, I know, we know. Anyway.
yeah, actually, Portugal. I've been.
Oh, that's a very nice place too.
I've been to
So
Portugal
people are
probably every
nice.
month of the year, so
Mm.
people have welcomed me into their house. And I went there in New Year's. I was
Yeah.
alone, and this lady at the cafe, she was like, "Come spend it with my family," and I'm like, so I feel like there, despite being Europe and more than in Spain, I feel like they're very, very warm.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your digital nomad visa here.
I'm very excited. I think Spain has a very good quality of life and it has such a great international community. So
How do you find yourself here in Spain?
so I got a scholarship approved to study my master's. I never thought I was gonna study again, but I wanted to try living in Europe. So coming from my country, it has to be probably like a study visa or nothing. So I got approved a scholarship and it was supposed to be Germany, but I don't know what happened in life. It ended up being Spain. So it ended in July, and since I've been working remotely for the past 3 years, someone told me, actually a girl from the US, she's like, "Hey, I hired a lawyer. I got my visa in 3 months. You should do the same." So here I am, and I actually got my visa approved. So
That's cool. That's cool. You're going to be here for at least a year.
yeah, so the visa
Oh,
is up
more.
for 3 years actually.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Since I'm Dominican, I can get citizenship in 2 years too.
Ah, okay.
So that's the goal.
That's good. So, what are some of the cultural clashes that you've noticed here coming to Spain? Despite the fact of having the same language, there are certainly cultural clashes, right?
Yeah. I think people like I expected a lot of people to be warm or to be very welcoming, and I don't know why. Like I've been here a year and a little bit more. I haven't really felt that the way that other people, like Americans, have done. Like I feel like here I've met probably like 2 people from Spain actually that I could say like, okay, we're acquaintances. But that's one thing that like from my country, Dominican Republic, like if you come here and you're from and I introduce you to my group of friends, automatically you have a family. Like they're gonna invite you to their stuff. Like it's very warm. And the AC. Summer here, I try to stay because I had a really nice studio and I'm like, I can't. Why people don't do AC? Like it's impossible. I try to go to
I haven't
every
noticed
cafe.
this actually. I've been having AC several times in different places actually. So.
I lived in the center. That's probably why.
okay.
And I went to a lot of cafes,
Mhm.
all with like no AC, and it was 40 degrees. And I'm like,
Wow, that's
no.
crazy. So the thing about the warmth, I know from a Dominican perspective, your
Yeah.
expectations might be a little bit higher than the average person. How do you compare Madrid to some of the other places? You talked about Valencia. I don't know how long you've been there. If you've happened to actually live with people,
Yeah.
spend some time with them for more than a day, how did you find the treatment?
So, for example, I've been to Valencia for probably like 4 times a year, and I also spent just like a month and a half there. Also to Sevilla, like a couple of weeks here and there. And it's also been pretty hard. It's always the international community, even like the international waiters or people who are really not from that place. what I've found from Valencia and people who actually live there that have told me is that
Mhm.
they're also a little bit like people from Catalonia. They're a little bit more closed than the people even from Madrid.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is luck because I have friends from here that they do have a lot of Spanish people, Spanish friends. So it's just maybe I haven't had good luck, you know.
How do you feel about the Spanish food? This is one of the things that I like the most about the place.
You want to put me in the red carpet here?
Oh, come on.
I mean, I think it's pretty good. Like from what I've known, for example, the croquetas, patatas bravas, and the paella, all of this is pretty good. But I think when you come from the Caribbean, specifically, we cook with a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
So it's just different, you know? And also from like Portugal that I've been, I think the food there, it's just kind of similar to Spain, but I think the seasoning, the
That's
spices.
the thing. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not spicy at all. Even the Spanish salsa brava is nothing compared to what we guys would call a proper spicy meal, I would say.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect sancocho here either. I mean, when you come to Spain, it's going to be something very different. And yeah, but I mean, I like especially the variety of meals that we have
Yeah.
here. This is certainly something that I like. My favorite is paella, actually.
Yeah, I know, I love it. And
Yeah, right?
arroz negro, like oh,
Yeah, this one as well is pretty cool. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the very first places that you mentioned. You talked about Colombia, then Mexico, foods, tacos. I think this is the main thing about them, right?
yeah.
What are some of the things that you liked pretty much about Mexico?
I spent in Mexico through 4 months. So 3 months living in Mexico City and then traveling here and there. Mexico for me, honestly, my favorite country. People is just like, it is awesome how welcoming, how heartwarming, and how much they like to party.
Wow.
It was like first night I was in Mexico, I was alone. My second trip, like solo traveling, I immediately had like I crashed the birthday party with an
Wow.
American guy, and everyone loved us. We were just dancing, eating in the birthday party. We didn't pay a cent. They were just like, "Come join us on our table." My first night in Mexico City, and I think I go a lot to the U.S. because main destination
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
Dominicans, right?
Yeah.
So I had this expectation about tacos that is absolutely no real. So when I got to Mexico and I got like tripitas, the tongue tacos, ice, everything, it was like, oh my God, what is this? But it's so good. Food in Mexico, because I went to, I don't know if you've heard of Oaxaca, which is almost like the capital of the food in Mexico. And it's such an experience. It's flavors that you will never experience any. Like, I've been to 16 countries now. I have never experienced the type of flavors that I've done there. And it's so much art. I feel like Mexico is the representation of art, from musicians, museums, just like all type of art. It's just amazing to see it. So
What will be your top 5 places in the whole Latin America?
definitely countries or cities.
Let's go with countries, actually. I know Mexico is there.
Mexico's
One.
the first one. Colombia. Surprisingly, Nicaragua was it's very not visited. I don't know how I ended
Yeah.
up there. I crossed the country. I crossed by foot actually.
Really?
Yeah. So Nicaragua.
Alone? Was it a solo trip?
It was a solo trip, but I met a Brazilian girl in Panama that we traveled the whole like we traveled Central America
Right.
by like hitchhiking. It was taxis, buses. So I would say those three. United States. Now that I've been to Arizona and to some like of the mountains, the nature is awesome. If you ask me like nature wise, it's the prices are really crazy, and I'm always gonna say my country like I have never seen like beach and mountains the way that I've seen in Dominican Republic. And I've been to Costa Rica. I know Costa Rica is awesome.
Yeah.
But like when you go to non-touristy places of Dominican Republic, your mind will blow. And it can be cheap. Like it's not gonna be the cheapest because it's been very gentrified.
I thought Costa Rica was the number one in terms of natural scenery, green places and some of the things, isn't it?
It is, but if you talk accessibility, like The problem is I come from high expectations.
Yeah, yeah, that's
all of this
yeah.
conversation is I come from high expectations. So it is beautiful. It's green. The nature is awesome. But for example, I went to some of the beach, and it doesn't went to the Dominican Republic. Mountains, yes, like all the flora, the trees, the flowers, and the animals. Yes, it wins. But when it comes to beach and people, like
Yeah, I can imagine.
so expensive. Jesus. I had to pay like $15 to go into a river. My country will never charge you for going to a river.
Wow. Is Spain expensive?
Actually, not as much. I feel like Dominican Republic is like a little bit more expensive when it comes
Oh,
to
really?
cost of living. Yeah, that's how it is.
I wouldn't have expected it, actually.
Me neither. I went in July and I spent so much money. Because, for example, here you can get a salad bag for like €1, right? In Dominican, like rucola or stuff like that, it could charge they could charge you 2.5 or €3, for example. So it's gonna be
Isn't
expensive.
this related to the places, some of the overpriced restaurants due to tourism and some of the things?
Yeah, but no, I'm
that's
I'm
pretty much
telling you about
everywhere.
supermarket because it's an island, so everything has to
Yeah.
be exported.
Have you been to Haiti?
No, it's actually super dangerous. So you would need to go
yeah,
with
yeah.
police and stuff.
Yeah.
Go through that.
Yeah. What was your very first trip as such, if you remember?
So if I don't know if that counts, but when I was very, very little, I went to
Yeah.
New York.
Generally, that's how it happens with family and everything, right?
Yeah. So first trip was to New York. My mom keeps telling me this story. I vaguely remember it, but I was like 3 years old. So we traveled to New York for the first time. It was around November, so it was very cold. And when I got stepped out of the airport, you have a little smoke going out of your mouth because it's cold.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom, why is everyone smoking here? And my first question after that was like, do you sell eggs in the United States? I was very worried about my breakfast.
So genuine. It's like, yeah, innocent questions, right?
Yes. Everyone in my family keeps remembering that
Yeah.
those were my first two questions.
So tell me a little bit about some of the challenging and scary experiences that you've had.
Yeah. So I'm a woman. And I'm very tall. So that makes me a target automatically.
Yeah, I noticed
for
you
people.
almost as tall as me, or probably taller. I'm
Yeah.
190.
I'm 180.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
no. So when I was traveling Latin America, for example, especially Costa Rica, I don't know what was it about that country. It was just all bad vibes, unfortunately. I have a ton of friends who have been there and it has been fine, but I got a lot of catcalling. I felt very insecure. I once had a guy following me, so I had to go into a shop and be like, hey, I need to be here. I don't feel safe. And they had to call a cab for me. So those are like not things that I like, but those are risks that you need to take because being traveling as a woman solo, it teaches you that you are capable of doing everything that a man is able to, and even more. Because I think I also read about it that there's a biggest percentage of women traveling alone than men traveling alone. So I did once. There was a protest. I was crossing from Panama to Costa Rica by bus, and there was a protest, and we were given the choice, like, do you want to go back or you want to go through it? With my 50 liters backpack, I went on it, and I'm like, let's walk. So we had to walk through the whole bridge, cross the protest, and we were like, yeah, I'm with you, until we got to the border of Costa Rica. But this kind of things, like, I just feel like I trust my gut a lot. So if I feel good about it, it's like they don't have anything against me. They're against the government, so why would they hurt me?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it is. So they're like, you go, off you go, And there's a lot of experiences like in Nicaragua, I did a volcano boarding. So there's an inactive volcano that you can sandboard on. But I would never think of that. Like, why would you sandboard on a volcano? But it was the most wholesome experience in my life. I was like, if they give you a prize for like, you need to go as fast as you can, and the one that is like the slowest one, you need to get a nice bath, for example.
Oh,
And you're so committed to actually get there very fast.
well, that's something here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever regretted to be at a place, traveling to a country and then maybe you got disappointed as you quite often have high Expectations?
Not really. Like, I feel like every place is special and I'm there for a reason. sometimes I've been to places like even here in Madrid. Like the first time I came here, I had a very bad experience with the service here,
Mm.
and but I was like that was my second time in Europe. I was in university. Like it was a company that brought me here. I was 20 years old, and I got to travel for free. So every time I got to a place, instead of like regretting, I don't like to look to the past. I'm like, what can I get out of this experience? What is this country giving me?
Yeah,
And it always gives you something.
that's true.